But I saw this kid 2 years ago, Brandon. He was like 6'1", 6'2". He's 6'7" now.
So let's talk about him for a minute, because that's the name everybody sort of gravitates to. Lamelo Ball has been a celebrity in our culture for a really long time. Jay Williams is sort of raving about his game, but are there NBA teams that have significant questions?
Yes, he's the most polarizing prospect in the draft, because if you just look at his game, like you break down his strengths, his weaknesses, I said it on SVP, he's the most talented prospect in the draft in terms of a complete natural, 6'7" point guard, incredible instincts, creative, more shifty than his brother Lonzo, defensive instincts as well. But some teams say, we don't want the headache that could come along with this. Like, what are you drafting? You're not just drafting LaMelo Ball. What comes along with this, and how are you going to go to your head coach, right? I can sit up here and say, he's the most talented prospect in the draft, right? But I don't have to go to my head coach and say, hey, this is who we're handing the keys to for the next 5, 6, 7 years, and that's what teams want to figure out.
I just want to make clear, you're talking about his dad, right? I mean, we talk about what the question marks are. That's what they're concerned about?
It's not just that. I think people look at what happened with Lonzo in LA, but it's also, okay, he skipped years of high school.
Right.
He hasn't been in a winning environment. He's, you know, their team right now is 1-7. What are his habits like? What are his work habits like? Is this a guy who's going to maximize his potential long term? So talent-wise, complete stud. But there are some real questions.
LaMelo Ball is one of the most, and if not the most, hyped up players in this year's upcoming draft, and will have many people vividly watching him as soon as his name gets announced on draft night. Like his brother, he is currently projected to be a top 3 pick in this year's NBA draft. Many people love LaMelo and expect big things from him in just his rookie season. So today, we will be asking the question, can LaMelo Ball live up to the hype? Will LaMelo Ball start off his career as a star, or will he follow in his brother's footsteps and not live up to his initial expectations? Before we begin, I just want to thank you guys for tuning in, and if you didn't already, I would greatly appreciate it if you guys take a moment to like and subscribe so you can make sure to never miss a new video. And with that being said, guys, let's get right into this video. As you guys probably know, LaMelo Ball started his high school career playing alongside his brothers Lonzo and LiAngelo for the Chino Hills basketball program. With the guidance of his father, LeVar Ball, Melo chose to drop out of high school due to coaching disagreements right before the start of his junior year. This led Melo to sign with the Pranay, or however you pronounce that, of the Lithuanian Basketball League at just 16 years old. Obviously, at the time, this was huge news, as Melo had verbally committed to playing for UCLA earlier in his career, at one point calling UCLA his dream school. After averaging just 6.5 points and 2.4 assists to go along with a 26.8 shooting percentage from the field in just 12.8 minutes per game, in April of that season, LaMelo decided to leave that team due to having problems with the head coach, as well as not receiving the playing time that he wanted or expected. After experimenting with different basketball leagues, Melo decided to go overseas once again, this time much more improved and matured in the Australian NBL, where he averaged a cool 17 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists, which was pretty decent considering Melo was up against professional players. So this leads to the question wondered by many. Will LaMelo Ball be a bust? If not, will he live up to his expectations? Well, I think this question really comes down to what you consider a bust. By definition, a bust literally means, and I quote, a highly touted or highly selected draftee that does not meet expectations. So, what are LaMelo Ball's expectations for just his rookie season? Well, one thing we do know for sure is that many people actually put LaMelo over his brother and expect him to be the better player. Considering Melo already played in multiple professional leagues at such a young age, many people expect him to have an impact nearly right away. It's important to note that Melo is just 19 years old, and he's going to be having millions of fans watching him very closely as second he steps on the court, which can be a lot of pressure for just a 19-year-old kid. In my personal opinion, I think that people often forget that players don't usually have the same impact that they had prior to the NBA right away. If we look at players such as Giannis Antetokounmpo or James Harden, for example, it took these players years to develop into the MVP caliber players that they are today. So considering Melo just came off the Australian NBL League averaging 17 points, it's fair to say he probably won't average more than that coming into the NBA. Now obviously I may be wrong, as it really just depends on the situation he's put into. Looking at the draft leaderboard, if Melo is put into a situation where he's drafted to a bad team that plans to build around him, which as you can see might very well happen, there can definitely be a chance that I am wrong and Melo has an outstanding rookie season. He can also be drafted by a team like the Warriors, who are already led by multiple superstars, which might just lead to them using him off their bench. So yes, Melo's season can greatly be impacted regardless of how good he is, specifically by the team he is drafted by. With all that being said, here are my predictions on what I see happening to Melo during his rookie season. I personally see Melo being drafted by either the Hornets or Bulls at either the number 3 or 4 pick. Considering he will be drafted into one of these teams, he will probably get a really good amount of minutes every single game. But do I think Melo will have a big impact as soon as he enters the league? Well, I probably see him scoring around maybe 12 to 15 points a game while probably having a few flashy plays here and there. But I don't see him as the superstars others are describing him as. With the mix of being a ball brother and extremely overhyped, at the end of the day, it's obviously not a surprise that he's expected to perform at an extremely high level as soon as he comes into the league. I mean, I'm sure we all remember the hype around Lonzo when he first entered the league. So back to my point, I think that after Melo plays a few games, people will start calling him a bust and probably criticizing him, forgetting he's just 19 years old. Just because people say he might be a bust, it doesn't necessarily mean he will be one. I think that in a few years, once Melo improves defensively and gains some muscle as well as has some NBA experience, he might be able to become a very good player and potentially even an all-star. With all of this being said, getting back to the main question on if Melo will be a bust, well, according to the media, yes, Melo will probably be called a bust and won't be that amazing player that people expect him to be from the moment he steps onto the court. From an analysis standpoint, him being called a bust is in direct correlation to the fan base and hype around him. The truth is, if Lamelo wasn't a ball brother, this hype probably wouldn't exist around him and he probably wouldn't have the expectations that he currently has. I personally do not even think it's fair for someone to expect Melo to play at such a good level at such a young age, especially with him not having any NBA experience. However, I do think as years come, Melo will improve season after season and turn into a very good NBA player. But in my opinion, for a player to come into the league and become a star player right away is a very rare, and I think it's extremely unreasonable and unfair to expect a player to play at such a high level during just his rookie season. So comment below and let me know what you guys think. Do you think Melo will be a bust and not live up to expectations, or do you see Melo having an amazing year during his rookie season and living up to expectations? Before we go, I'd like to announce that we have officially created an NBA group chat so that we can all talk basketball and NBA all day long. In this chat, there will be daily NBA discussions, polls, and trivia, and I definitely look forward to seeing all of you guys there. This chat will be hosted on an amazing app called Flick, and I'm sure you guys will absolutely love it. The link to join the chat will be in the description of this video. With all that being said, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video and just want to thank you guys a ton for all of your recent support. And if you didn't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe for more weekly basketball and NBA content.